Ladies and gentlemen, we just saved America.
Mr. Reagan.
All right, real quick, I want to introduce our new sponsor. They're called Goldco, and if you want to invest in gold, these are the guys to go to. We're going to talk about them a little bit later in the show, or you can go to the website right now. It's MrReaganLikesGold.com, or call 844-696-GOLD. Now, to anyone paying attention, the Trump victory was obvious. Of course, Trump was going to win in a landslide. Kamala's campaign issued nothing of substance, and a couple of the policies that they did offer were carbon copies of Trump policies. The woman could barely string a sentence together. Meanwhile, Donald Trump made a photo op at McDonald's into the stuff of legend. Now, I have a lot of friends outside of the US, and they were all asking me what I thought would happen. And I basically said the same thing to all of them. Trump would win in a landslide. A girl I used to know in Sweden wrote me, and this, I think, perfectly illustrates my typical response. She wrote, "Yeah, who do you think will win?" I said, "Trump, 100%. She says, "All good then. But it's pretty even, no?" I said, "Ha ha ha, no. Trump will crush her. The leftist media wants everyone to think it's close, but it's not." And then, of course, 22 hours later, she wrote me, "You were obviously right." You know, sometimes being vindicated, having your predictions come true, is incredibly satisfying. But of course, a lot of conservatives were not so optimistic. Quite a lot of good Americans were afraid that this election would be stolen, once again, just like in 2020. So how did we manage to pull it off, and why were the Democrats unable to steal the election again? Well, I have a couple of theories. First of all, let's just point out a graph that's been circulating on X, because it really shows very clearly how bad the 2020 election fraud was. Now, I've actually fact-checked this graph, and it is accurate. Every election since Obama's first term, Democrat candidates have gotten between 65 and 70 million votes. Then, with Joe Biden, suddenly 81 million votes. How the hell does that happen? Because it was not as if anyone actually liked Joe Biden. I interviewed Democrat voters before the 2020 election, and I would actually say that there was less enthusiasm for Biden than there was this year for Kamala. I mean, sure, the Kamala enthusiasm was completely manufactured and totally free of any substance, but at least there was something there. Some people wanted her to win because she was a woman. Some people wanted her to win because of the abortion issue. But with Biden, there was nothing. There was no enthusiasm at all. And if the posts on X are any indication, it seems like now some Democrats are starting to actually wake up to the reality that, yeah, you know what? 2020 was stolen. But that then begs the question, why didn't they do it again? Well, I think there are two possible answers to this. First, I think the reason I was so confident that Trump would win was because I actually didn't think that they could cheat this time around. Not without getting caught anyway. And had they been so brazen to cheat openly, well, it would very certainly have triggered a civil war, or at the very least, a military coup. And this nation would have seen what a real insurrection looks like. But that is a dangerous thing. And so I realized that to the sinister puppeteers of the deep state, it was probably safer to sabotage Trump's presidency after he took office. And so I do believe that that is a danger that we will have to watch out for and to try to counter. But I digress. The reason I thought that it would be difficult for them to cheat undetected this time is basically twofold. One, I think this time around, Trump's victory was going to be so decisive, so massive, that they just wouldn't be able to cheat big enough to win. Cheating is a bit difficult, and cheating and not getting caught is very difficult. But if the margin is slim, you don't have to cheat that much to win. And cheating just a little, well, that you can do and maybe not get caught. But cheating in as massive a way as would have been necessary this time around, that was going to be hard. Now, the second reason that I thought it was going to be difficult for them to cheat is that we were expecting it. In 2020, most of us realized that the Democrats and the deep state, they were unscrupulous. But stealing an American presidential election, I don't think most Americans thought that these people were that evil. And then they proved to all of us that, yeah, actually, in fact, they were. So this time around, we were all looking for it. I know a girl who worked at the polls in California. She was a Trump supporter, but she said that while she was working, throughout the night, there were 2 accusations of fraud by poll watchers. And one of these accusations was actually against her. They claimed that she had deleted votes. Of course, she hadn't, but that's how sensitive everyone was. Everybody was hyper vigilant. And Laura Trump, who was thankfully designated co-chair of the Republican National Committee, she organized an army of poll watchers and lawyers to keep an eye on things to make sure that everything was legit this time around. And that looks like it might have worked. But there is another theory that might explain the Trump victory, and I'm not entirely convinced of it, but I'm also not dismissing the possibility. The other theory is that they did cheat again, but that the margin of victory was so incredibly wide that even with cheating, they still lost. And here is the best evidence to support this theory. Trump actually got 1.6 million fewer votes this time around. Now, how the hell did that happen? The enthusiasm this election was off the rails. We got more black voters, more Latino voters. Men came out and voted stronger than ever before. There is no way that Trump got fewer votes this go-round. My guess is they flipped some of the votes. And so if this is true, cheating did occur, and we just won anyway. In either case, how did we win so big that the left either couldn't cheat or couldn't cheat enough to steal the election? We will get into that in one moment. First, let's talk about how brilliant Goldco is just one more time. Donald J. Trump is officially the next president of the United States of America. While millions of Americans are rejoicing in the victory, thousands of others are still concerned about their savings. The unfortunate truth is, we still have $35 trillion in debt. The interest on that debt is now larger than our entire defense budget for the first time in history. Plus, the wars that started under Biden are still raging across the globe. So what can you do to help protect your savings? Many Americans are already taking action by reaching out to the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco. Right now, Goldco is offering a free gold and silver kit to show you how precious metals like gold and silver could help you diversify your savings before it's too late. Visit MrReaganLikesGold.com or call 844-696-GOLD to get your copy free of charge. Plus, you can receive up to a 10% instant match-on bonus silver for qualified accounts. Visit MrReaganLikesGold.com or call 844-696-GOLD. That's MrReaganLikesGold.com or call 844-696-GOLD. Okay, so how did we win so big that the left either couldn't cheat or couldn't cheat enough to steal this election? Well, I think that we all know the answer to that, but let's recap real quick. First of all, Joe Biden humiliated himself in the debate. Had Joe Biden soiled himself live on stage, I don't think it would have been as humiliating as the utter collapse we saw on stage. Not only did Joe Biden prove to the world that he was incapable of running against Trump, but Biden proved to the world that the Democrats in D.C. and that the media had all been lying for ages about Biden's health. So Joe Biden was out, and they brought in possibly the worst alternative imaginable, Kamala Harris, the master of the word salad. So she gets this initial boost of enthusiasm because, well, basically she's not Biden. That was her big draw. But there was no substance to her campaign, and she basically hid from the press for months. And we all knew why. If she was asked about any policy issue in detail, she would not be able to answer the questions. She was just an incompetent diversity hire, and anyone who followed these things closely knew it. Meanwhile, Elon Musk had bought up Twitter and renamed it X, and so the truth about all this stuff was getting out. Biden's failing health, Kamala's incompetence, the public was not being entirely kept in the dark anymore. There was one platform where you could go and you could get the truth, and more people were signing in. And then the moment that changed everything. Donald Trump got shot. The assassin's bullet grazed the ear of the once and future president, and he stood up defiant, fist in the air, mouthing the words, "Fight, fight, fight." This moment turned Trump into a living legend. Now, I thought in that moment that Trump had just won the election. Even Democrats in D.C. gave up on that day. They knew what it meant. But the corrupt leftist media, they had other ideas. They covered the story, of course, but they quickly moved on. They kept calling him a fascist. They kept calling him a Nazi. They kept comparing him to Hitler. They kept going on with the same rhetoric as before, pretending like that same rhetoric wasn't exactly what caused the shooter to be brainwashed into attempting to assassinate Donald Trump. And people forgot. People really forgot that Trump had survived an assassination attempt. And then, of course, the most critical moment of the entire campaign, my Kamala Harris parody ad.
I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. You think the country went to shit over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Okay, maybe that was not the most critical moment, but I like to think that it had some effect. This video was retweeted by Elon Musk and got maybe 300 million views altogether. Just about everyone saw this thing. And, even though this video was a joke, I think that sometimes comedy is actually the most effective way of delivering a message. And in fact, it was so effective that it incensed the left. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, he even signed a law prohibiting videos like mine. So, of course, a team of brilliant lawyers led by Ted Frank helped me file a lawsuit against the state of California, which we promptly won. And all of these things made the news. Even Joe Rogan spoke about it.
And do you see what Gavin Newsom said to him?
No.
Gavin Newsom said that you should be posting this, that we're going to make it illegal, and I'm going to sign a law. And he said, "Professor, suck on these nuts."
No, he didn't. Elon
retweets altered Kamala Harris campaign. Says manipulating voices in an ad like this should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. And then he says, I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Suck on these nuts. And he said parody is legal in America.
Oh my God.
What a wild dude. Because he's not scared of those folks. Because he's the richest man in the world.
But then there were so many other magical moments for Trump and so many devastating moments for Kamala. The two finally took to the debate stage. And this debate, well, it wasn't particularly notable. In fact, it was so underwhelming that the most popular thing to come out of it was Donald Trump saying that Haitian immigrants were eating pets.
Eat the cat, eat the cat.
And I think that this even helped Trump because who doesn't benefit from being the subject of a TikTok trend? And even though Donald Trump clearly won that debate on the issues, Kamala did not fall flat on her face. She did better than Joe Biden. And so the media tried to pretend like she won. And a lot of people actually bought it. And I think that even Kamala and her team, I think even they bought it because soon after that, she made probably the biggest mistake of the campaign. She went on a media blitz. She went on The View and some podcast that goes by the name Call Her Daddy. And while Kamala was laughing it up with the ladies, Hurricane Helene barreled across the country, killing over 200 Americans. FEMA fumbled and Kamala cackled away. It was not a good look. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they went into action. Elon Musk probably saved hundreds of lives with his Starlink internet service. He did more, single-handedly, than the entire Biden regime. And then Trump, well, he then went on his media blitz. And it was brilliant. He went on Theo Vaughn, Lex Friedman, Patrick Bet-David, and of course, Joe Rogan. And he pretty much killed it on all of these podcasts. He made news, and that news was almost always positive. And to be honest, I don't think it was just because Kamala did her blitz during the hurricane. I think it's a matter of authenticity. Every time Trump goes on one of these long-form interviews, he's willing to talk about anything. He's willing to answer any question, and he is well educated on these topics, and he has solutions to problems, and he's funny, and he is natural. Kamala, on the other hand, anything she says, everything she says, is scripted. Most of her talking points are either empty rhetoric or they're lies. And look, you just cannot speak freely if your positions are all based on lies, because then you have to support these positions with more lies, and that gets difficult. And look, she can't really go off script. And so that's why Kamala Harris always just sounded like a broken record, repeating the same artificial rhetoric over and over and over. The perfect example was her disastrous 60 Minutes interview, where CBS actually had to edit the interview in order to make her look good because she was so terrible.
60 Minutes tried to save Kamala Harris, removing one of her most incoherent answers.
The power of editing can take the rambling and the verbose and make it look more coherent, even though I will say even the edited piece had far too many words. Like, she always uses 10 to 12 words where one word would suffice, and really effective communicators are good at using fewer words because you make the point sharper. It also goes to the point of how there are two realities, and there's sort of the younger group or the more high information consumers out there who live in social media and on the internet and on X who did see and will see those unedited comments. They went viral. And then you've got the more traditional, maybe more baby boomers, people still consuming only corporate media and television media who will see that edited piece.
They'll be none the wiser, Kosha. They'll be none the wiser.
Meanwhile, Trump's team sets up a totally absurd publicity stunt. He goes to work at McDonald's, and Trump totally kills it. Why? Because even though it was just a publicity stunt, even though it was just, a little bit of fun trying to illustrate the point that Kamala never actually worked at McDonald's as she had claimed, even though it was just a meet and greet with some Trump supporters and, learning to box up some French fries, Donald Trump was natural. Donald Trump was himself. And Trump seemed to genuinely appreciate the McDonald's workers and the supporters who stopped by.
I could do this all day. I wouldn't mind this job. I like this job. I think I might come back and do it again. Thank you. Look at that.
Mr.
Look at that. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Nice to see you.
You made it possible for ordinary people like us to meet you.
You're not ordinary.
I mean, thank you so much
You
for
are not
everything you're
ordinary.
doing.
I can see.
We pray for you, and you are the type of person we want to be the president.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I took a bullet. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
When you think about it, I guess that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Trump did the same thing again with the garbage truck stunt. Look, this comedian, he cracks a joke about the floating island of garbage being called Puerto Rico, right? The left overreacts, and then Joe Biden goes ahead and he calls all Trump supporters garbage. And so what does the Trump team do? They organize a garbage truck, and Trump jumps in and goes for a ride.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
And look, these things can seem silly, actually. So it's a risk. Sebastian Gorka pointed that out to me. He said, the scariest stuff is the easiest stuff. Because if you fail at something easy, like dishing up French fries, you humiliate yourself. But Donald Trump does that stuff without a second thought. And, with the garbage truck thing, the thing that made that so great was that afterwards, he goes on stage and he talks about it honestly. He doesn't hide the fact that it was a silly photo op. He embraces that fact and he roasts himself a little bit.
I'm in this beautiful plane. I'm enjoying myself. I have a wonderful suit on. And one of my people came in and said, sir, the word garbage is the hottest thing right now. The hottest thing out there. Sir, would you like to drive a garbage truck? And then I actually said, how the hell do you get into this truck? It's way up high. It's a big one. This was a beauty. I said, you didn't have to buy it that big, right? You have to get it that big? So I said, man, if I don't get up there, this is going to be very embarrassing. These stupid people, they'll say, he's cognitively and physically impaired. So look, the first stair is like up here. I'm saying, shit. So I had the adrenaline going and I made it. I made it. And then we drove about 2 feet. I got out, got into the plane. And then I got in the car and I'm driving over here and I have this still on. And I come into the arena. And I say, where's my jacket? I want to get out of this thing. And they said, it would be unbelievable if you could wear it on stage. I said, and I said, no way. I got 25,000 people standing outside. I got all these people here. There's no way I'm wearing it on stage. They said, oh, okay, sir. I said, get me my jacket. But if you did, it actually makes you look thinner. I said, And they got me. I said, I want to wear it on stage. When they said I looked thinner, I said, in that case, I'll wear it on stage. I may never wear a blue jacket again. I may go in this. They said that was the word, that was the key. Sir, you look thinner.
The idea that anyone would vote for Kamala Harris was so absurd to me by the end of this campaign that I actually made a video mocking this idea. I used to be a Trump guy. I was MAGA all the way. But then Kamala started to make a lot of sense.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden, but also I'm not Donald Trump.
I realized for the first time that Kamala was right. She's not Joe Biden. And she's also not Trump. So I started to pay attention a little more. And the more I listened, the more I liked. Imagine, if you will, a world devoid of common sense. A world in which the nonsensical ramblings of an inarticulate moron are actually convincing. A world in which men vote for Kamala Harris. If you find yourself in such a world, take a moment to look around. You may have just wandered into the Twilight Zone.
Mr. Reagan.
And while the left was making videos about how women should tell their husbands that they're going to vote for Trump, but then secretly vote for Kamala.
And no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth.
I made a video about a guy who was afraid to tell his wife that he was voting for Trump because he thought that she would leave him, only to discover, in the end, that she was secretly planning to vote for Trump too. And you know why I made that video? Because I think it's true. I think a lot of leftists flipped in 2024, some openly, but many secretly. That video, however, failed to do well at all. And you know why? Because the same day that I posted that video, there was one last little October surprise. It was a little squirrel named Peanut. At the 11th hour, it was revealed that authoritarians on the left had raided the home of the squirrel's owner, taken the squirrel away, and they killed it. They killed the squirrel. And the irony, of course, was that they have no problem with millions of illegal immigrants living in New York, but an illegal pet squirrel, oh, well, that has to die. You know, of course, X was rife with squirrel memes, and in the end, did it help Trump to victory? You know, probably not. But it certainly did make for another interesting moment in perhaps the most interesting campaign in the history of the country. And sure, there were a lot of memeable moments, and I'd like to overstate my role in all of this. But the truth is that I actually did work really hard, not just this year, but for the past 7 years, putting my heart and soul into this show and trying to get the truth out about everything that's going on in U.S. politics. And you know what? There are many people out there like me. My good friend Sebastian Gorka was one of the greatest heroes we had working tirelessly every day for this victory. Laura Trump, as I mentioned before, and of course my good friend Scott Pressler, who may have single-handedly delivered Pennsylvania. Gorka and I discussed this a little bit on election night.
Behind me is the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, full of the creme de la creme of America First and MAGA-land. Pennsylvania is called the Keystone State for a reason. Let's just get Pennsylvania, and then she is toast.
That's absolutely right. And we got to thank Scott Pressler for a lot of that. He did a lot of work out there.
Scott Pressler, I don't think he slept for the last 6 months. Turning Point Action and their amazing team. Chris Malone, who was on my show today with P.A. Chase. I mean, you know, let's thank the Amish. Let's thank everybody who not my wife, Fairfax County, GOP. I mean, this is.
And Laura Trump. Laura Trump did a lot
Laura
of work.
Trump. This is, you know, the significance of this, whatever the end result is, the significance of this is that this isn't somebody else's party now. This isn't the Rhino-controlled establishment party. Thanks to Lara, thanks to Scott, thanks to Charlie Kirk, we, the American people, own the Republican Party. I've been saying this for years. Look, don't bitch and moan about the rhinos if you're not prepared to do the work. My wife hates politics because she's sane. She's exactly the kind of person you want as the chair of the biggest county in Virginia, because she's not swamp. It's not about the money. They don't even pay her. She's been working 18-hour days for the last 5 months. That's how we founded the country, by people who said, hey, you know what? It's my country, it's my county, it's my community, it's my party. This is what we are witnessing right now, gentlemen.
I believe this election cycle exposed a lot of American heroes.
I think that's so true. I think that's so true. I mean, look, can we just talk about real heroes? Let's talk about one who heard the gunfire and then jumped on top of his wife and his daughters to protect them from a Democrat wannabe assassin in Butler. Then, when we go back to Butler, I'm honored to be sitting literally behind J.D. Vance and Elon Musk. And I know this sounds a bit weird, but it's a big deal. When you are beloved of California, of the bi-coastal liberal elite, you're Mr. EV. You're the guy all the nerds look up to, who's sending rockets into space. And you say, I'm going to endanger all of that. The love of the establishment, the love of Palo Alto. And I'm going to jump around a stage like a giddy school kid. And then the best line in that funny screwball Canadian South African accent, he says, I want a president who, when he gets shot in the head, gets up and shouts, fight, fight, fight. I mean, Elon, I don't care what you think about his demeanor, his strange business practices. He is just as much a hero as Scott Pressler, as Lara, as Katie. This is why it's a tectonic election.
Election, so many heroes, and Elon Musk, I think, it may have actually saved the country by buying X, and in turn saved the integrity of all of our elections all over the world. Because if the U.S. falls and we become totally corrupt, every country will become totally corrupt. We are the standard.
Think about what happens if we didn't have Elon Musk, if we didn't have the Twitter files, if we could have all of the stuff still suppressed about Hunter Biden, about the corruption. I mean, think about, I've been giving Joe Rogan shit for 6 months now because he refused to platform President Trump. What does Elon do? Yesterday, the day before the election, he goes on there for 3 hours, and then Joe says, this is the most cogent argument for President Trump I've ever heard. Oh, and yes, this is an endorsement. From Elon convincing Joe to Twitter being the only source of, social media information that isn't biased. Hey, if we win tonight, Elon, I got to send you a photograph of, he's walking around here with his little son on his shoulders. Hey, Elon, can you just please buy YouTube and Google next? That's all we want. That's all we want.
Yes, please buy YouTube.
And you know what? There's so many other heroes, even the meme makers, right?
Yes.
Like just ordinary folks on X who are like, they killed the squirrel, let's make a meme.
Let's just talk about this, because this is the American way. Let's talk about balls to the wall, and let's talk about heroes. I want to talk about 2 heroes. One of them, I know his name, the other one I don't. Hero number 1, the McDonald's franchise manager who says, yes, President Trump can come to my McDonald's, put on my apron, and stand at the price station. That guy is a hero, okay? Yeah. And by the way, McDonald's headquarters memo on the Monday after, which actually made fun of Kamala Harris, that was for a corporate letter, that was a bloody cool letter. And then, I don't know who he is, I'm gonna find out who he is. Can we hear it for the owner of the dumpster trucks company who, when 30 minutes before landing, I know who it was on the plane, who's told the president, hey, sir, that idea about a high-vis vest is great, but would you like a dump truck? And the president goes, hey, that's a great idea. Make it happen. They were 30 minutes from landing, guys. I have this from the campaign manager. This staffer found a brand new garbage truck, found the flags, the Trump sign, and had it driven to the airstrip. I'm sorry, that's America. That guy or that gal is a hero.
And people gave Trump a lot of crap the first time around for maybe not hiring all the right people, not firing all the right people. I think this is a sign, he didn't really know what he was up against exactly. The first 4 years, he sorted that out. The most recent 4 years, we've seen more deep state exposed. I think Trump knows exactly who to hire now, exactly who to fire now. I think we're in for the best 4 years in America in a long time.
Can I tell you something shocking that one of my callers said on the radio show? And when he said it, I was like, what the? And then I thought about it for 30 seconds and I thought, wow. I had a caller about a month ago who said, it's really good they stole the election in 2020. And I go, what? It's really good? And he said, yeah. Because if they hadn't, we wouldn't have a clue of just how bad it is.
That's such a good point.
I mean, think about it. The idea, 700 years in prison he's facing. Bannon goes to prison. Navarro goes to prison. They tried to kill him multiple times. 4-star former Marine Corps generals call him Hitler. We wouldn't have seen any of that. And then the average Joe is so red-pilled. And they say, hang on a second. They're charging him with what? They tried to kill him because of what? The fact that he quote unquote lost in 2020, I think has red-pilled probably tens of millions of Americans. And I think, God willing, in about the next 2 hours, we'll find out exactly how many millions of Americans have been red-pilled.
In the end, this was not only the most important election in the history of the country, it was the most entertaining, and it was probably the craziest. In the end, we can all take a deep breath, satisfied in the knowledge that we averted disaster, that we saved the country. But now, the real work begins. As Donald Trump and Elon Musk and RFK Jr. and the rest of the team begin their work to make America great again. Well, that's it for me. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.